Hey everyone, TimaeuSS here, and welcome to another Honkai Star Rail video. So we've got the CM Bros Topaz guide in terms of their breakdown and suggestions on the relics, the builds, the cones, as well as their teammate selections for Topaz. And we actually have two videos here, that's right, two well-known content creators for the CN community and their breakdown suggestion for the Topaz. Now, a couple of things here. I did release a tier list video on the global ranking for Topaz, and I know a lot of people were not exactly too happy because they're saying, damage is not the end of it all. And I completely agree, right? There are different ways to play the game, and the tier list is very, very subjective, and of course, it's based on the power rankings. But this game, it's a single player game. You don't have to care about the power rankings. If it's your waifu, go pull for the unit. You shouldn't even look at the tier list. It's merely just a guide and a reflection of her performance in the current memory chaos, and who's to say the next memory chaos buff won't be buffing follow-up attacks. So that's what's key to understand. And again, if she is your waifu, you've been saving her since the beginning, ever since she was revealed, just pull for her. You don't need to look at this video, okay? But it would be very, very dishonest for me to come out with a Topaz video and based on the CM Bros feedback in the community global side, say that, at E0 without her signature cone, she's gonna be top tier. I just can't say that. Okay, so a couple of things back to the CN guide. Now, they did have quite a few breakdowns, and I was checking out actually the comments in the video as well, and the general consensus is exactly the same. All right, the general consensus is exactly the same. Unfortunately, Topaz is just not that amazing in comparison to what has been released so far, especially the banners, the three banners before Jinglu, Fushan, as well as Danghan. And the general recommendation is, if you have Clara, if you have Jingyuan, and you're able to get E1 or at least minimal E0 plus her signature cone, and you like the follow-up attack style, then you can go for her. And of course, like I've always been saying, if you like the character, you like the design, go for her. Okay, but at its current moment, if you're looking at meta or whatnot, just probably an easy skip. Probably an easy skip right now. Even though she has really, really cool mechanics, and outside of combat she has additional resource gains, it's still unfortunately not enough in terms of what she brings to the table. But let's take a look at how they are building Topaz and what their ideal setup is for her, and we'll skip towards the initial breakdown, starting with her stats. Now, unfortunately, with regards to Topaz's stats, okay, her stats are not ideal. If you take a look at her speed, it's very, very high, ranked number 3. Okay, it's a third across everyone else, but her HP, her attack, they're just unfortunately very, very low. Okay, so 36 units, and across all Topaz's other stats aside from the speed, she ranks 32, 34, 35, and 36 in comparison to Jingyu. Again, look at the difference in base stats. Look at that difference. HP, defense, and attacks just cannot compare. That's unfortunate, but you need to look at Topaz as almost like a support. She is half hunt, half nihility in a way. And in terms of the stats that you will probably be aiming for, 0+1, which is Eidolon 0 plus the signature goal, is ideally this. Okay, and you can see 23,000 attack with 81% crit and 115% crit damage. This is very, very much obtainable, but the attack is just very, very low in terms of what she offers because the cone as well as her base stat is not ideal. However, again, if you look at her from a support point of view, okay, then you'll be able to understand that actually as a support, her stats are not bad. And here they're playing a little clip of how Topaz, as a hunt unit, does not have taunt decrease. Okay, her taunt value remains the same even as a hunt because there's no additional moves as well as no additional taunt reduction coming out from her, which is great in the sense that when she gets hit, she has better energy recharge and actually affects her rotation a bit as well. Okay, so looking at the investment, so Topaz, because of her follow-up mechanic, you actually need to upgrade pretty much all of her skills. that's also one thing in terms of investment. You do have to upgrade a lot of her skills because her damage will come from pretty much everything. Even the basic attack will matter, right? Even the basic attack will matter, so it's gonna be a bit more expensive. In terms of pairing up with a unit like Jingyuan will help a lot because Topaz will be able to clear some of the single target, while Jingyuan will be fantastic in AoE, and the Lightning Lord does do crazy amounts of single target as well. There's a bit of a misunderstanding initially where people thought that if you're hitting, let's say 2 targets and Lightning Lord strikes and the enemy is dead, technically you don't lose that damage on the adjacent unit. It will still proc the adjacent damage, but the Lightning Lord main hit will only go on the enemy that is still alive in the several instances of the Lightning Lord drop. Okay, so in Topaz you're essentially looking at 2 units that are given out. One is Topaz herself, which is applying debuffs, and like I've said in the tier list video, Topaz's debuffs are what makes her quote-unquote future proof, in the sense that she's got with her signature cone and her E1, right? She has 3 debuffs on her kit, and those debuffs have 100%. She doesn't need effect hit rate. These will land, and actually Numbi will be the damage dealer. Okay, so it's very, very interesting. Now looking at the build, so we can jump straight to relics, because I think currently, and they make it very, very clear that there are no ideal sets for Topaz. Okay, even all of the sets that are available at the moment, same with Jingyuan and to an extent Jingdu, who's kind of running Quantum at the moment, you're not gaining much from the sets. Potentially later on we'll get a set that offers follow-up attack damage, but until then you're using, for example, the Fire 2 set, the Fire 4 set. Fire 2 set if you use with, for example, the speed or the attack 2 set bonus, but the Fire set plus a Salcedo inner 2-piece is what you are running. Now crit rate, crit damage for the main chest, attack or speed for the boots, and then fire type damage for the orb, and attack or energy. And I'll explain what the difference in the later parts of the video, why you can have these different ones. And in terms of this guide, it's going to be the very, very same, I believe, in terms of the relic choices. Here we go. Yeah, so you can see that in terms of the comparison, I'll just skip through the text. In terms of the comparison, you can actually see the attack boots comes out on top of the speed boots, and they're in agreement here in this showcase. Attack boots give a lot more because Numbi does get the pull from allies fall attacks. So Topaz, even though she does land some debuffs, you actually want attack boots, because otherwise you're just losing way too much stat. So you are ideally running attack boots. So that solves the attack boot versus speed boot discussion. And in terms of the rope, is it attack percentage rope or energy rope? The discussion differs a bit. Okay, the discussion differs a bit. You can run the attack rope, you can run the energy rope. There is a benefit to both. So when we talk about the attack rope, you will do, of course, more damage, but the energy rope allows you to have a better rotation, right? You can have EEA into Q. So instead of EEA, E, and this E is, you know, you have to use the E and also get attacked, or you have to kill someone, then you get the Q. So EEA is much, much better in terms of the rotation. So 100% you want to have ideally energy rope at early Eidolons. And in terms of the boots, speed boots, you're just losing way too much, so you want to go attack boots, and you have a much better damage output. And just because how the mechanics of Numbaz works and how the unit gets pushed from the follow attacks, you ideally just want more attack, and the speed boot doesn't really help Numbaz in terms of how the cycling works. Okay, so that's quite important to know. Now looking at the Lycon choices, there are a few choices. Of course, I would honestly say you have to pretty much have the signature cone on Topaz. It just offers so much to the kit as well. If we look at the breakdown, right, if the signature cone is at 100% in terms of damage, offering damage to the team, you can see that the signature cone is, you know, just the best in slot, about 10% higher than the second choice, which is a Super Imposition 5 Swords Play. So that is the second choice. It's not bad because, you know what, Topaz will do multiple instances of damage, so this is quite good. But again, if you can get the signature cone, do go for it. And if you don't have Swords Play at 5, Super Imposition 5, then you can use the free-to-play Herta cone. Okay, now the other problem with Topaz is, I keep coming back to it, is that you know, if you like the design, go for it. But if you are really looking at how to play a follow-up team unit, honestly, we have not received a unit that really excels with follow-up damage. Clara, yes, but she is not the ideal partner for Topaz, to be very honest. The theory crafting initially from the CN community, as well as I think some of the global, is that, you know, Clara is going to be fantastic, right? You let the enemies hit you, and they'll go multiple times in a cycle, sometimes when it's the boss. But as you are clearing memory chaos, the enemy's numbers will go down, so Clara's turn will decrease as well, because you're not countering all the time. And you cannot buff the enemy boss, right? You cannot buff the enemy boss. It's harder to turn manipulate the enemy boss, and in turn you're having less counterattacks. So unfortunately, again, I think my point still stands, and it's being echoed by the community as well, that has done more Topaz testing in comparison to the other units, is unfortunately we are still waiting for a follow-up unit that will help her a lot more. Now, in terms of the team pairing, you can pair her up right now with Asta. We've seen Jing Yuan as well as Claire on the team. You just want, again, the supports to help the team excel. You almost running Topaz in the team as a pseudo support that offers some form of damage, and there is a Topaz Yukon angle as well, in terms of playing a hyper carry Topaz right now with Asta, Yukon, and Topaz plus a support in slot 4, either in Fushan or Locha at the moment. But to be honest, if you're gonna hyper carry Topaz, then anything will work, right? You just throw Bronya and everything like that. That will work. Now, if you're looking at team compositions using Topaz as a pseudo support and a secondary DPS, then the current best at the moment in terms of calculation is going to be either Bronya Jingyuan or Asta Jingyuan. Okay, it's very interesting in this simulation. Tingyun Clara or any variation of Clara is not that high in terms of the damage output, and I'll just be very specific about how they do their simulation. They do have a system where they have the sim. You can see they actually built a sim here, right? So it's not just theory crafting. They built a sim and to simulate the memory chaos, and you can see Kokoli here, but they actually simulate the memory chaos 10 and 9 fights with all the stats, all the mechanics, so you can really test the damage output. And it's as close as you'll get in the in-game real showcase, because you can manipulate the stats, you can manipulate the teams, all of their in-game mechanics are all there as well. So it will give you an accurate reflection instead of just throwing numbers around. So this will be a reflection of how Topaz performs. But other team-wise, you can technically, of course, use... I mean, if you want to, Pela, Bronya, Tingyun, that seems to be the team that everyone uses to zero cycle. And again, Topaz, if Arlen can zero cycle, Topaz can zero cycle again, right? You can of course do that, but I'm speaking purely from an equal investment point of view as a new player coming in. You know, if you're not pulling units based on whether or not you like the unit, and even though Topaz is very likable in the new storyline, are you going to be pulling for Topaz with regards to, you know, in comparison to how much power she's going to instantly provide for your team? So that is the breakdown from the CM Bros team and their gear in terms of what they're building. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a lot of resources on CM because not many people pulled for Topaz and then tested her. For the ones that did, the ultimate conclusion is around the same as just slightly disappointing in terms of their comparison to the previous ones. But in terms of future viability, definitely a core component of the follow-up team, especially if you got her at E1, S1. She is going to be fantastic, and I think that crit damage mechanic that she provides on E1 is insane. It's really strong. But until then, similar, I would say, to Kafka, right? Until we get another dot core, we won't see the full potential of the follow-up team. But at least Topaz right now, outside of combat, you'll get additional resources, which is really good as well. So she has that going for her. But Again, everything we just have to look at it from a non, I guess, speculative point of view by actually taking those units into the testing arena and then comparing them to the other units, and not just look at Topaz herself only and think, you know, what it's waifu, then you know she has to be good. You know, if she's waifu, you're gonna pull regardless. There's no point looking at tier list videos or breakdowns like this. Anyhow, it's TimaeuSS here. It's quite a long video actually, because there's two basically CN videos together in one. So I'm not even going to go over the Eidolons because, like I've said, E1 S1 is her best. E0 S1 is decent as well, but you lose just, I think, way too much of her kit almost. And I really doubt people who are pulling for E6 will even look at this video, because if you're pulling for E6, you don't really care anyways. You're going to pull for E6 regardless. So anyhow, it's TimaeuSS here. Let me know your thoughts, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye now.